Okay, here is some more. Okay, this is titled Egypt, Civic Space Under Siege. Okay. The Egyptian government heavily restricted civic space and public life and failed to ensure the economic rights of Egyptians throughout 2023. Human Rights Watch said today in its World Report 2024. The authorities rapidly curtailed free expression and peaceful assembly in the lead up to the December presidential vote to sideline meaningful competition. The relentless crackdown include new waves of political motivated arrests and arbitrary detentions, intolerance of peaceful protests, and unfair trials of journalists and activists. In the face of political and economic challenges in 2023, the Egyptian government of Abdel Fattah al-Sisi resorted to its unusual tactic of curtailing freedoms and detaining some people to intimidate other Egyptians who, in order to discourage them from participating in public life or the political sphere, said Ahmed Magdi, senior Middle East and North Africa researcher at Human Rights Watch. No amount of repression can hide the fact that Sisi's government had failed to protect who, if not actively worsen the economic, civil, political, and social rights of Egyptians. In the 740-page World Report 2024, its 34th edition, Human Rights Watch reviews human rights practices in more than 100 countries. You ain't lying. In her introductory essay, executive director Tawana Hassan said that 2023 was a conclusive year not only for human rights suppression and wartime atrocities, but also for selective government outrage and transnational diplomacy that carry profound costs for the rights of those not in on the deal. You hear me? But she says there was also signs of hope, showing the possibility of a different path, and calls on governments to consistently uphold their human rights obligation. In November, the authorities referred Ahmed Dadi, a prominent politician, along with his campaign director and 22 supporters, for trial on charges based merely on collecting political endorsements for his presidential campaign. The authorities successfully eliminated Tatairi as a possible challenger to Sisi by relying on repressive tactics. Between September and October, security forces detained over 110 Tairis perceived or actual supporters, apparently solely in relation to their public support for him. Earlier in April and May, they also arrested some of his family members. In August, annual inflation hit a new record of 39.7%, exacerbating Egyptians' economic hardships. In September, a Bloomberg analyst shows that Egypt is the second most vulnerable country to a debt crisis after Ukraine. The government failed to take concrete measures to provide transparency and civilian oversight over the vastly expanding and optical network of military-owned businesses, or to protect economic rights, including by not significantly increasing social protection measures required under its loan agreement with the International Monetary Fund signed in the late 2022. In October, the authorities detained and prosecuted dozens of participants in pro-Palestine protests along with other activists in Cairo and Alexandria. Also in October, an appeal court confined a 6-month prison sentence and a fine of $20,000 against prominent government critical and veteran publisher Hisham Kassim on politically motivated charges of libel, slander, and disturbing the authorities, which is me. And us, okay, but mainly me. In September, an appellate court upheld a 4-year prison sentence for Mohammed Adel, a prominent activist and former leader of the April 6th youth movement, on charges of spreading false news. In March, a Cairo Emergency State Security Corps sentenced 29 right activists charged with belonging to the Egyptian Coordination for Rights and Freedoms, ECRF, a human rights organization, to harsh prison terms between 5 years and life following an unfair mass trial. The deadline for all non-government groups to re-register under the draconian 2019 association law passed in April. The law allows authorities to restrict and intervene in the work of independent groups, shut them down, or prosecute their staff members under a plethora of unlawful restrictions. The authorities continue the systematic targeting of actual or perceived dissidents living abroad, as well as their families inside Egypt. In August, the authorities detained the fathers of Amin Gamazadeh, an Egyptian journalist living in Brussels, who were previously detained and tortured in Egypt, and Fagher Adili, a German Egyptian doctor and activist. Both fathers were released in October without trial. The authorities had also refused to provide or renew the identity documents of dozens of dissidents, journalists, and human rights activists living abroad, apparently to pressure them to return to Egypt, where they will face near certain prosecution.